If your sales are down, you are not alone. Check your mindset. Daniel Goleman is, from my knowledge, the godfather. He is the father, he's the daddy. Sales isn't always successful. Whenever we are selling anything, it's not always like the Wolf of Wall Street, right? It's not always an upward curve. Sometimes things go a little bit wrong. Sometimes things go a little awry. And sometimes our sales plummet. Our sales go down. We're not closing the amount of people that we should be closing. We're not talking the amount of people that we should be talking to. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about what to do when your sales are down. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Sales Circle podcast. This is your podcast, your sales-based podcast that is designed, it's written, it's produced to help you make more sales. Whether you're a business owner, entrepreneur, salesperson, sales manager, or anything else alike. I'm your host. My name is Rob Spence, an internationally renowned sales trainer, sales author, sales coach, and author of 3 fantastic sales books, all listed behind us conveniently. And today we're going to be talking about what to do when your sales are down. Simply because, as I said in that sort of opening monologue, is that sales isn't always a straightward up momentum. You know, it's not always a straightward up chart. Sometimes things do go wrong. Sometimes we don't sell as much as we should. Sometimes we can go through a really good winning streak, right? Where we just sell. Everyone we speak to closes. And then we hit that lull. Sales drop, sales dwindle, sales drop off the face of the earth. And of course, for business owners, that's incredibly worrying because you've got expenses to pay, heads to pay, or you've got, stakeholders looking into the business, creditors to pay, right? But of course, for salespeople, it's also bad because you're a salesperson. Your number one job is to sell. Your job is to sell to people and to make more money and to close deals. So it's really, really important that we sell more. And in today's episode, we're going to give you some simple hints, tips, tricks. And if anything, we're going to give you the maybe sort of like moral guidance is the word I'm looking for. Maybe just that sense of that actually things aren't always going to go well. So we'll crack on with the episode in just a second. But before we do go on, make sure you hit that follow button. If you're watching over on YouTube, hit the subscribe button for me. And let's crack on with today's episode. So really, in the grand scheme of things, there's a multitude of reasons as to why your sales are down. Sometimes it could be external factors. Sometimes it could be yourself. I think when we talk about why sales go down, I've got some kind of overall ideas, but don't ever be afraid to look at what you are doing, okay? That, if I'm honest, that's the number one key thing. Of course, we can look at what the market's doing, we can look at what our competitors are doing, and we can blame the data, and we can do all this kind of thing. But sometimes you've got to look at yourself. And the best salespeople in the world, the most elite salespeople in the world, will look at themselves and think about what they can do better to get themselves out of the rut. I read once, I want to say it was a quote by Jeffrey Gitomer. I could be wrong. Jeffrey says, quit your day job as the general manager of the world, right? And that quote stuck with me because we can all sit there and we can all blame external factors. We can blame this, we can blame the data, we can blame marketing that they aren't giving us leads, X, Y, Z. But actually, really, if you're a good salesperson, if you're a good business owner, you'd get out there and you'd build the lead yourself. You'd build your networks, you'd call back your old leads and so on. So don't ever be afraid to look into yourself and think about what you can do differently. But there are a couple of things that we can take into account. Of course, seasonality springs to mind. Your product or service could come and flow with the seasons. You're predominantly going to sell a lot of ice cream or certain flavors of ice cream in the summer as opposed to the winter. You're certainly going to sell a lot more garden furniture in the summer as opposed to the winter. You're more than likely going to sell more Christmas trees in the winter than you would the summer. So sometimes certain industries, certain products, certain services, seasons change, and that flows with what you're trying to sell. And of course, the big one that I kind of missed off there are, what's the word I'm looking for? Accounting years, right? A lot of budgets are released sort of April, May time, right? Maybe sometimes people have a bit more budget to get rid of sort of in February, March. So there are all these things to take into account. Now, of course, poor pipeline really comes to mind. Okay. Now, once again, there will be some out there that go, well, my pipeline is managed by my marketing. My marketing sucks. I've got a rubbish marketing team. The leads my marketing team send over are rubbish, right? We can say all that, and I get all that. I grasp all that. But in my opinion, salespeople are responsible for their own pipelines, okay? Call me old-fashioned, call me what you will. But back in my day, right, salespeople had to get out there and generate their own leads. They had to go door knocking. They had to go cold calling. They had to, go through the phone back to generate leads. One thing I've picked up with business owners, and especially those business owners that are sort of a bit stop-start with their business, is they stop marketing when their books are full or when they've got loads of work on, which of course it makes sense, right? But what happens is this: it's feast or famine. They get loads of work in, they deliver the work, they hand over the work, and then what do they do next? They've stopped marketing, so all of a sudden their pipeline is empty. So make sure, one of the key reasons why your sales may be down is because your pipeline, the stuff feeding you, is absolutely slim. Of course, burnout or a lack of motivation can affect sales. That could be that you've hit things too hard and you've absolutely burnt yourself out and you just need a rest. You just need to stop off, right? Look at it like a star striker. I love a football analogy on this podcast, right? A star striker sometimes will need to be rested. They will need a rest. They will need to be taken out of the team. Look at Jamie Vardy at Leicester City, right? There's times when he's been the leading goal scorer of our club for many years, right? And carried our team for many years. But sometimes he needs a rest. He needs just time just to break and change, right? And of course, sometimes that burnout can lead to a lack of motivation. Now, of course, as well, a change in buying behavior is sometimes critical and will sometimes play a part. Not always, but sometimes we need to change our solutions. We need to change our products. We need to change our services to match what the market or the audience wants or needs. Now, listen, I want to make really, really clear. If your sales are down, you are not alone. It happens to us all. It happens to the best of us. So I found a study here that says, so it's by Salesforce, 67% of all salespeople experience at least one major slump each year. So over half of salespeople every year are telling us that they struggle at least once a year, right? So don't worry, don't stress. I personally feel one of the worst things we can do as salespeople when those sales start to slump is we allow our head to drop. Once our head drops, it's really hard to get out of there. We've got to keep that chin up. We've got to look into this swerve. We've got to look into the curve. We've got to steer into the to the skid. We've got to get through it. But one question I'm sure you're asking is, how do we regain that sales momentum? So remember, 67% of all salespeople go through a slump, and I'm going to talk to you about four very simple ideas to help you get out of that slump. Now, those 4 ideas I've put into practice here, right? I'll be honest, aren't going to reinvent the wheel. They're probably stuff that you've thought about or know about, but you've just not done yet. But they work because I've been through it. Number 1, audit that pipeline. We said a second ago that one of the reasons why salespeople go through these slumps is because of a poor pipeline. Once again, maybe you're listening or watching this as a small business owner. Maybe you are a local handyman, a gardener. Maybe you are a digital marketer, whatever it is, right? There are times when we get so busy working, we forget to look at our own business and look at our own marketing. So now is the time to audit your pipeline. Go through your customer base. What deals are real? Who are just wishful thinking? Who are tie kickers? But also, who can you spend the most amount of time on? Secondly to that, who haven't you touched upon in a while? Who haven't you followed up on in a while? Remember, every sale takes anywhere between 7 to 12 touch points. So what can you do to reinvigorate that conversation? Now, of course, if you are worried about people ghosting you, not returning your calls, not returning your emails, we've got an episode coming up really, really soon that touches upon ghosting. We have had one a couple of weeks ago, actually, thinking about it. But there will be another one very, very soon, so make sure you check that out. But yeah, who's gone quiet? Who needs chasing? Who do you need to talk to? Who do you need to reinvigorate? Tip number 2, put more into it. Dial up that activity, right? some will argue this, and please do write in if this has upset you, right? Sometimes sales is a numbers game. If you are expecting sales and you're making 0 cold calls, right? Think about it, simple maths. If you are making 10 cold calls a week, and normally those 10 cold calls a week generate you 1 customer every month, wonder what happens, right? If you up that to 20 cold calls a day, right? Do you think that could potentially get you 2 customers a month? Potentially so, right? More calls, more emails, more handwritten letters, more follow-ups, more conversations. Attend more networking events. Get yourself out there. Up your posting on LinkedIn. If your activity is quiet, ramp it up yourself. Don't wait for those perfect leads to come into you, right? Don't sit there going, oh, marketing's rubbish. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit here and scroll Facebook for another 20 minutes, right? Get out there. There are networking events to attend. There are cold calls to be made. There are people to go and, speak to events and going door to door. Don't wait for the perfect leads. Create them. Now, actually, just to back this up, there is a statistic or a study from HubSpot that goes on to say sales reps who increase their activity by 15% during slow periods see a 22% rise in closing rates the following month, right? So just increase that activity by 15%. Once again, we're not talking silly numbers here. Remember, if you're sending out, 5 handwritten letters to prospects every single month, just increase that to what's 15% of 5. Oh God, here we go. Just send 8. I think that's a decent increase, right? You'll see an increase in your sales. Now, here's a given, right? We've talked about speaking to your pipeline and reinvigorating some of your pipeline, but speak to your existing clients. Speak to them. Sometimes there are some quick and easy wins within there. Could they give you referrals and recommendations? Potentially. Could you potentially cross-sell or upsell something to them? Potentially. If you're looking for some sort of nice, quick, easy wins, speaking to your current existing client base is, an ideal way to touch hold of that lowest hanging fruit. It's a simple tip, but it works. And finally, this comes back down to you. Check your mindset. First things first, do you need a break? Okay. Do you need a rest? When your car is running out of fuel and you need to get to Cornwall, right? You don't keep driving and go, yeah, it'll eventually get there, and it's spluttering and starting. Soon it'll get there. I promise it'll get there. Soon it'll get there. You need to stop. You need to refuel it. You need to put some stuff in there to get you back to Cornwall, right? It's the same with yourself. If you're not generating leads or generating or sales or the results you want, do you need to maybe take a foot off the gas just momentarily? Do you need a little break? It could be a day, it could be a week. Do you need just, spending time with your family, going fishing, gaming for a day, whatever it takes, just to take that rest? You are the most important thing in your life, right? Don't worry about being selfish. You are the most important thing in your life. If you need a break, you need a break. If you need to push, you need to push. Only you can gauge that. But don't ever get yourself to that burnout situation. Take control of what you can. Your routines, your inputs, what you're putting into your sales pipeline, and of course your attitude. If you're going around looking desperate, sleazy, or just looking negative, you're not going to attract positivity. You're not going to attract positive results. So take control of what you can take control of. Your routine. Are you up early? Are you getting your exercise in? Are you eating right? Are you breaking when you need to break, and so on and so forth? Are you, hand on heart, making the right efforts that you can to increase your sales? Are you touching upon your pipeline and making follow-up calls and touching base? Oh, I can't believe I just said that. But are you speaking to people that need to be spoken to? Are you upping your cold calling? Are you attending networking events? Are you calling your current customers, see what you can cross-sell and upsell to, right? There is low-hanging fruit there. Make sure you are taking control of what you can put into things. As long as you do that, then lo and behold, we heard earlier a statistic here, if you increase your activity by 15%, you see a 22% rise in closing rates the following month. So they are 4 little simple tips there. I could go on forever and ever about what to do when you hit a sales slump. But I assure you, and please write in, if you do even just 3 of those 4 things over the next 30 days, your sales, no matter whether you're in a slump or in a high, let's not forget, if you are in a high, doesn't mean that you need to stop this, right? If you're in a high, keep doing these things and you'll see an increase in your sales. I absolutely promise you. Just a quick note before we carry on from our sponsors, our partners over at Monday.com CRM. Don't forget, if you are looking for an intuitive, highly functional, quite fun and easy to use CRM system that is pretty much guaranteed to increase your sales, then you want to try out Monday.com CRM. It's highly intuitive with great AI and automation. Great way to keep a track of your sales pipeline, your customers, your products, and everything else in between. Right now, as a thank you for tuning into the Sales Circle podcast, there is a link below which will allow you to get some free access and some other little goodies and so on and so forth as well. Just find the link in the show notes or the video description below, hit it, sign up, and see what you think. I have no doubt it's probably going to be the most easiest to implement CRM systems you're ever going to come. Check out Monday.com CRM by hitting the link below. And that takes us on to our listeners' questions. Every week we ask for your questions, those burning thoughts, those burning things that you need to know. It could be a struggle with a certain objection. It could be that you're struggling in a sales slump. Maybe there's someone in your pipeline that just isn't taking your calls. Write in and I'll be sure to answer them. All you got to do is email in to thesalescircleofficial@gmail.com or find us over on social media and send over some messages or comments, of course. And first one, a local guy, which is great, from Leicester, sunny Leicester. This one is from Callum. He goes on to say, Rob, I feel like I'm doing everything, but nothing is converting. What should I look at first? Gosh, good question. So I'm doing everything. I feel like I'm doing everything, but nothing's converting. What should I look at first? Well, if we break down sales into a form of mathematical equation, right, we need to have leads in or people to speak to or prospects, however you want to word it. We need to convert them, right? So Callum, what I'd say first is look at that kind of conversion rate. Let's say easy maths, right? If you're getting 100 leads into you to speak to every single month, but none are converting, right? We've got a horrendously poor conversion rate. And I know I'm teaching suck eggs here. I know you know that. But that then means to me that you are not encouraging a sort of marketing or opening or prospecting problem. You're encouraging a converting problem, okay? Of course, if we've got a prospecting problem, that's where we up our prospecting, we up our cold calls, we up our marketing, X, Y, Z. If we're looking at a converting problem, start to test things, start to look at where customers are dropping off. Is it during the initial discovery calls? Is it during quoting and demos? Is it during follow-ups? Is it during customer sign-ups potentially? Where are those customers dropping off? Find the source of the problem and mix things up. Is it your messaging? Is it how you're talking? Is it where you're talking to these people? Are your proposals good enough? Are the proposals matched neatly to your customer and your prospect? Do you have a relevant follow-up strategy that keeps you fresh in the minds of your customers? I think what we need to do here, Callum, is take a bigger look at where things are going wrong and where things are dropping off. Take some time with it. Remember, one of the things we spoke about a second ago, don't stress, don't rush, take that break if you need to, but find where things are dropping off and just, test different things, test different methodologies. Once you find where that problem, it's like looking for a puncture in a tire, right? You've got to put that tire. Remember when you're fixing a puncture, you're putting air in the tire and you're putting it through water to find the bubbles, right? I don't know if you remember doing that. That's what we're doing at this stage. Where's the puncture and what can you do to fix it? Well, I hope that helps, Callum. Obviously, it probably needs a bigger conversation. And of course, I do offer training and consultancy, so do message in if you need something a bit more one-to-one. This one's from Natasha. And Natasha says, I get asked this a lot. How do I stay motivated when rejection is constant? Look, rejection is massive in sales. You are going to get rejected left, right, and center, day after day, hour after hour, minute by minute at times, right? Rejection isn't personal unless you've done something horrendously wrong. Rejection isn't really personal. It's just something to do with business. It's just part of the process. Try and look for those small winnable goals. You know, instead of thinking, right, today I'm going to close a sale, set a goal of, okay, I'm going to make 20 cold calls and I'm going to send out 2 proposals and I'm going to follow up with 5 prospects and I'm going to make contact with 1 of my former customers. Gamify things, break things down into smaller chunks and go through those motions to get those easy wins. Remember, rejection isn't personal. Rejection is just part of the sales process, I'm afraid. It's horrible, but just by breaking things down into those small winnable goals and those winnable things, that can keep you positive and allow you to push on. Hope that helps. Junaid from Manchester, I hope I've said that right. Junaid, should I lower my prices if no one is buying? Absolutely no. It can be tempting. It can be tempting. Once again, we can do whole episodes on, you know, avoidance of discount and why selling value over, you know, price really comes into play. When we discount things, it looks weak. It really null and voids our margin. It creates a race to the bottom, and it kind of shows our prospect that we're willing to bend over backwards, left, right, and centre. I think if you know your value of your product, Junaid, I don't think you've put like what you do or what you sell, which would be good to hear actually. But look, don't discount, right? Stand strong. At the weekend, my good lady and I went shopping, right? We went in, too many shops, right? Too many shops in my opinion, but it's what she wanted to do, and I was happy for it, right? We went in the lower end of the market. We went in the Primarks, right? In there you can buy, you know, t-shirts, cycling shorts for £2, £3, right? They're good, they're decent, they do the job, right? And it's stack them high, sell them cheap kind of situation, right? It's just a cesspit of people meleeing to get a £2 t-shirt. It's horrible, but it's there, right? You then go over to the next, where else did we go? Zara as well. We went H&M. I'm sure somewhere else. Even though they are not the most priciest on the market, they're not designer label, a dress or a t-shirt in Zara certainly costs a lot more than Primark. Zara haven't come and gone, yeah, do you know what, we need to match Primark's prices, because some of our customers are going into Primark. They stand strong. They go, no, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, this is what we believe in. Shop at Primark as well, but don't forget we've got good quality stuff. So I'd say really, really stand your ground. But look, great questions there as always. And again, do send any questions. I love to hear from you. Before we wrap up, I'd like to share my book recommendation of the week. Every week I find a book that I love that has really helped and developed my my sales process and my what's what I'm looking for, my career. And, you know, I think reading is fantastic. No matter what job you do, you should never stop reading. And today's book that I'm going to recommend is Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. Now, I think emotional intelligence in life is absolutely incredible and so important. But especially within business and in particular sales, emotional intelligence is so vital. And Daniel Goleman is, from my knowledge, the godfather. He is the father. He's the daddy of emotional intelligence, right? And this groundbreaking book, when did it get actually released? I'm going to hazard a guess, 90s, 1995. Yeah, there we go, middle of the 90s. Daniel talks about the difference between IQ, which we all know about, and EQ, which is like your emotional intelligence. And it brings into various sort of, you know, I think it's 5 principles, if memory serves you right. You know, self-awareness, empathy, controlling emotions, social deafness as well. And Daniel and emotional intelligence, or EQ, talks massively about, first of all, understanding those emotions, understanding the emotions of other people, recognizing them greatly and putting them to good use. And like I say, for a salesperson, EQ is vitally important. You know, we just heard a question from a listener there all about, you know, dealing with rejection, right? That, to some degree, will incur some emotions. You're going to be dealing with the emotions of your customers, with your buyers, with your prospects. Once again, you need to understand them, empathize with them, talk with them, and deal with them, right? So if you're looking for a book that will help you understand your own emotions, but also allow you to understand the emotions of others and use them to your best practice, then Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman is the book for you. It's a lengthy read. It's a tough read. You're going to need some time. It's not just a coffee and a sunshine read. You're going to need to really read it. But as always, the link to buy your own copy will be in the links below. And that wraps us up for another episode. Oh gosh, nearly dropped the book of the Sales Circle podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've covered a lot today. Remember, sales will go up and they'll go down. Just take control of what you can take control of, right? Look, in my opinion, never stop prospecting. The second you stop prospecting, the second you stop marketing, the second you stop filling up your sales pipeline is the day you go out of business, right? Of course, if you just want, a business that's stop, start, go for it. I can tell you from my own experience, the success of Paragon Sales Solutions, my award-winning sales and marketing agency, the success of us has come from constant prospecting. We've not got work in and gone, right, we're going to deal with that now. We're constantly marketing. We're constantly cold calling. We're constantly pushing for the next thing. And you should be too. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Sales Circle podcast. Just do me a quick favor before you disappear. Hit the follow button, go on over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and find us on social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, X, LinkedIn. Find us, follow us, like us, and drop some comments. I'm Rob Spence. Each of these episodes comes out every single Thursday without fail. Thank you so much for checking us out. And until next time, all the best. There we go. I'll do donkey. And that's it for another episode of the Sales Circle. Make sure you hit that follow button, join us over on social media, and we'll see you next week.